Good evening, Sasnaks. I'm Fumbi with We So Nerdy, here with Katie to discuss the penultimate episode of Outlander Season 4, that is Providence. How's it going, Katie?
It's going great. I hope everyone's had a good weekend, and I'm really excited to be here and talk with everybody.
Absolutely. Friends, we do hope that wherever you are, you had a nice week and that you are staying warm. As a reminder, our recap and review of Providence is live, and it includes 3 new clips from the episode and 2 new images as well. So please make sure that you take a look. The link, as always, is right down below. So please click on the link, take a look, let us know what you think about the review, what you thought about the episode, etc. So with all those reminders out of the way, let's go ahead and get started and get talking, yeah? Okay, let us get going. Excite. Okay, so tonight's Outlander, Providence, follows 3 storylines. So we watch Bree, with the help of Lord John, confront Stephen Bonnet in his last moments. Fergus and Marsley attempt to free Murtaugh from jail. And then also we see Roger's entanglement with the Mohawk at Shadow Lake and his own struggles with his faith and also with love. Interestingly, we do see the first 2 storylines, that of Bree and Lord John and Fergus, Marsley, and Murtaugh, converge at least for a little while in Wilmington. But by the end, the Frasers that we love so much are separated yet again. And where in the world are Claire, Ian, and Jamie? These are the questions. So, Katie, I turn it over to you and ask you to please kick us off. What stood out to you in terms of Providence? What jumped out at you? What were you loving, et cetera, et cetera? Kick us off.
Since everything kind of followed those 3 storylines, I really love seeing Marsley being so supportive of Fergus, and we'll get to that, but I really like that. But one of the things to just start off is I loved how in this episode, Bree was able to confront this past that has hurt her and sort of take control of the situation, because she lost control and she spent this whole time trying to find that control again. And Jamie's letter to her kind of gave her, I think, a direction on how to do that and how to gain control of the situation. And it was through forgiveness. And that was a really interesting turn on, what she did.
I agree.
Her interaction with Bonnet.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because when Lord John arrives at River Run and he brings information that Bonnet has been arrested, you can tell that Bree has very clearly, she's unsteady, right? I mean, I can't even imagine, but certainly even hearing his name, right? Hearing that he's in her vicinity, even though I assume Wilmington is still far off, right? But even within a carriage ride near her has to be very unsettling. But as soon as she hears the news, and Lord John comforts her that you really shouldn't tell people that he raped you, because it'll only bring you shame. But don't worry, he will be punished for all his crimes in the end, right? He's condemned to die. He's going to be punished regardless. And Bree is like, okay, but guess what? I want to see him. And you're just like, whoa. And Lord John is like, no. And then, of course, finally, after all this time, we get to see the contents of the letter that Jamie wrote to his daughter. And as Katie said, it's a story of forgiveness, right? And it's really interesting to think about Jamie writing that to his daughter, especially since that was not Jamie's reaction in terms of his situation with Blackjack Randall. But I mean, of course, he would want better for his daughter. So I get that.
Yeah. And I think that the part in the letter that I really like, and I can't remember word for word, but it was a man like him kind of lays the seeds for his own demise. Like he's going to end up getting himself in trouble and end up killing himself, getting himself killed. Exactly. But it's not going to be by your hand. It'll be by somebody else's, or it'll be by mine. And I appreciated the letter from Jamie, and I think that it was his way of kind of reaching out and giving her this fatherly advice when maybe he reacted so, angrily or hastily the last time. But I don't know. I guess we'll get when we talk to Bonnet, but yeah, like I can't imagine the strength it took Bree to go there and to stand right in front of him.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Because that scene was so well done, and Sophie, was incredible, that scene. But we have, Lord John and Bree kind of bonding through this episode. And after she reads the letter and after he finally agrees to take her, she kind of feels the baby move, and he asks to touch her tummy, and he's like, my God, he's real. And yes, I know is what she says. But that moment, I was just like, this is so beautiful. That was such a touching kind of moment.
I told you I love their dynamic. I really do. Even though it starts off sketchy, it becomes a really nice relationship, a really lovely relationship. And I think about Jamie's letter, just like maybe one more thing about Jamie's letter. I think that Bree, it has to be incredibly difficult for Bree to think about forgiving Stephen Bonnet, right? But the truth of the matter is, forgiving Stephen Bonnet isn't for Stephen Bonnet, right? Forgiving Stephen Bonnet is for her, right? For her ability to be free of this memory and move forward in her life with this baby who she already loves, right? And I think, especially, she says that, after she gives the letter to Lord John, she says, I didn't say goodbye to him. I didn't say goodbye to Jamie, right? So even in terms of, like, I don't want to say honoring his memory because he isn't dead, but sort of honoring this request he's making of her, right? I think there's so much that goes into Bree's decision to want to see Stephen Bonnet and want to try to offer forgiveness. And it's not easy. It cannot be easy, right? But there's certainly a lot that's going into that. And I don't think any of it is for the sake of Stephen Bonnet's sake.
Oh gosh, no. I don't think it's he can hang for all I care. Literally. But just one thing about Jamie's letter that I remembered, if you paused it or if you look closely, after it says James Fraser, it says Dad. It's like written at the bottom. And so, yeah, that was super sweet. And that gave me all the feels. But I found myself, I'm not going to lie, I found myself agreeing with Bree tonight. And all of you who've watched know how you're kind of, iffy on Lord John, and we have been. But when she tells him, as he's leading her to the jail to see Stephen Bonnet, she tells him, you're impossible not to like.
Yeah.
And
it's all of us.
That was the moment I was just like, yep, that happened to me. I don't know when it happened. It happened slowly and gradually, but I like Stephen Bonnet and I like his friend.
Lord John. You mean Lord John?
Yeah, no. Oh my God. Yes. No, I don't like that too. I like Lord John.
It's okay. I got you.
Oh,
I got you.
I need caffeine.
Yeah, I got you. But like that, because you can imagine again, right? So we're packing a lot into this episode again, even though we're dealing with these three storylines. A lot happens, right? So like in a blink of an eye, it's a week later. Lord John is bringing Bree to Wilmington to go to the jail. He's secured permission from Governor Tryon to go and see Stephen Bonnet. And Bree steps off the carriage, right? And again, you can think about the frame of mind she's in. This is a place where she had sort of this wonderful experience with Roger, the love of her life, but she also had the worst experience of her life being raped, right? But she's back here again, right? And these memories sort of assault her. And she says to Lord John, I miss my mom. I miss my mom, and I really want my mom to be here before the baby's born. And Lord John, being the absolute most lovely guy he is, he reassures her again and is like, I trust your parents. Your parents said that they're going to be here. They're gonna be here. Don't you worry. And guess what? I kind of miss your mom too, even though she's like, she talks too much sometimes.
I miss her when I'm ill.
I miss your mom too, right? And that's when Bree says, you know, you are impossible not to like. And that's, I mean, that I felt that deeply, deeply, deeply in my spirit, because you guys know my feelings about Lord John that I've had in the past, in like the recent past. So I felt that. It's just like, Lord John, you are a lovely human being.
He is. He's so charming. Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's like that should be illegal. Like how charming and just comforting he is. His very presence with Bree is so comforting to me. And he's so protective of her. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that about him. I appreciate him so much.
Very much. Very much. Very much. Like Lord John, like I said it last week, like he has to be like, why do I keep getting caught up with these flippant Frasers? Why do I keep getting caught up in their mess? Yet he always takes it in stride, and his instinct is always to protect the Frasers, right? Be it Jamie, be it Claire, be it Bree, eventually Fergus, Murtaugh, you know what I mean? Like his instinct is always to protect them. And he doesn't gain anything from it. He really doesn't.
And he never uses it as like, oh, well, I did this, so, you know. And gosh, guys, man, this is called growth. This is called personal growth. Watch it as it happens in real time.
Yeah, Lord John, he again is one of the MVPs of tonight's episode. Mm-hmm. He was amazing tonight. He was amazing tonight, right? And even when, you know, he the jailer walks Lord John and Bree into the prison, and the jailer is like, you know, I put him right here. He's chained up, you know, for easy access or whatever. And Lord John is like ready to go inside with Bree, and Bree's like, no, I'm gonna do this alone. And again, he's like, no, that's not what's about to happen. And again, you could see it in Bree's sort of countenance, right? That she's come this far. This is what she's here to do. She wants to do it by herself. He can't hurt me. And I think she means that sort of in the present, right? He's chained down. He can't hurt me. But just like anything about him, the memory of what he did to me, he does not have any power over me anymore. I refuse to let him have any power over me anymore. And she proceeds forward. And it's fantastic.
It really, I love watching Sophie act, especially kind of in this scene. I've loved watching her kind of hold herself, and you see so much of Claire in the way Bree holds herself and the way she kind of stands and the way she even kind of holds her head up a little bit. Like when she's feeling stubborn, she kind of jets her chin out. Yeah. But she went in there and her back was straight and she was just walking. Like she had a purpose. And like it so reminded me of like season 2 Claire in Louis in the palace.
Oh my goodness. Walking. Yes, Katie. Yes.
Like, I was getting such feels of just like watching just that straight back resolve. I'm doing this.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, Katie. And well said. She is her parents' daughter. You know what I mean? She's certainly her mother's daughter, but she's her father's daughter too, right? And you see all of it, right, in this moment where she has so much fortitude, so much courage, so much grace to just proceed forward. I thought it was fantastic, right? And like even when she gets there, from the beginning, like Bonnet just tries so hard to cheapen the moment and to bring down the moment, right? I mean, when Bree asks, do you remember me? He's like, I don't know your name, but I remember your face and some other things. And you're just like, ew, you're disgusting. Stay away from me. You know what I mean? Like he just keeps on trying to cheapen it. When Bree introduces herself, I'm Brianna Fraser. My parents are Jamie and Claire Fraser. they helped you to escape from being killed, and then you consequently robbed them and killed one of their friends. And he's like, I remember, but if you came for the jewels, I sold them already. Right? Like, he just consistently tries to bring her down and consistently tries to cheapen the moment, and Bree won't let him.
Mm-hmm. That's just, he's so awful. And I know that there are so many other choice words that I really want to use, but I'm not going to.
He has consistently been a life ruiner in every single situation he's been in every essence of the word. He is a life ruiner. He is a horrific human being. Horrific. And
to have Bree stand there in front of him, and whenever he says, I remember your face and other parts, like, her eyes are kind of teary, but she's like disgusted, and she's just like, no. And she forces back this whole time. And then there's like this her reveal of her pregnancy. And, he makes some real, like, horrible comment about how he's had other women try and pass off kids as his. And she's like, I don't need anything from you. Like, this is not for you. I have no reason to lie. I just came here because I'm giving this to you. I'm forgiving you. And she doesn't say all this, obviously, but she's forgiving him because she's like, I'm leaving this place and you're not going to be part of my life anymore. You have no control of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, what he demands to know when he's like, what do you want? He demands to know what she wants. And she's like, I came to offer you forgiveness, and, you're going to hang until you die. If in your final moments, it helps to know that there will be something of you left on this earth after you're dead, then you're welcome to that knowledge. Right. Again, I think a lot of grace, right? A lot of grace, yes. A lot of courage in that moment. And then she turns to leave. And again, he tries to cheapen the moment. And he's like, so even after I'm gone, I won't be forgotten. And you see, like, Bree just, I won't say she snaps, but she is like, she's done with it. She's done with all of it. And she's like, no, please believe me. I am going to forget you. This child will never know who you are. This child will never know your name. And I will do my best to raise my child, as a good person, someone who is completely unlike you. And guess what? You're going to be rotting in the ground. Right? And that was, yes.
I was so proud of her. And you can see whenever she's telling him that, after the camera kind of goes back to him, his face is like, oh, he realizes then what he's dealing with. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, so this isn't, she really doesn't want anything from me. She is really done with me. And he's just, this is the last interaction he's ever going to have with anyone on this earth that has any part of him or any kind of interaction with him. And it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
He's kind of shaken by it.
Yeah. Like I said, like I wrote in the outline that he seemed to have a crisis of conscience. And I think that's giving Bonnet way too much credit. I don't think he had a crisis of conscience, but I think, Katie, you're spot on. I think he was like, I think he was impressed by Bree. I think he was impressed by Bree's ability to stand up to him, despite sort of the way that he kept trying to like make her nervous, the way he kept trying to bring her down. I think he was impressed by Bree and impressed by the way that she stood up to him and said her piece and said, I'm going to leave here and I am going to have the strength to forget you. And I think he was impressed by that. He was definitely shocked by it. And I think that's why he like reaches inside his tooth and pulls out this gem that he offers for the child's maintenance.
Yes. And I'll admit, I don't trust him. No one has any reason to trust him. And there was a part of me going, oh my gosh, if she gets too close, what if he grabs her? And then like, what if all that happens? And of course, there's everything kind of going on outside that we'll get to. But I don't know, like, part of me is just like, let him hang. Like he's not growing. I am not here for his, half-ass redemption at all. And even, when we'll get to this in a minute. I mean, no one's going back to save him.
No. And that's I noticed that too. Like when the building was about to go up, everyone was like, the jailer didn't do anything wrong. Make sure you grab him. And Murtaugh was like, guys, grab him. And they bounced. Nobody looked again to see what Bonnet was up to. Let the man burn. Who cares?
I know, they were just like, it was the guard, and no one looked back there again. Nope. And I was just like, it is what it is.
They are all of us. They are all of us.
You should have been a better person. Bye.
Deuces.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Bree leaves. She leaves the cell. She takes the gem. She turns around and she leaves the cell. Right. Meanwhile, sort of a storyline that's on the same in the same timeline is that of Fergus, Marsali, and Murtaugh. So immediately, sort of flashing back a little bit, immediately after Fergus sees Murtaugh arrested along with Stephen Bonnet, Fergus goes to the other regulators and is like, Murtaugh was arrested, he took responsibility even though I was with him. And they're like, Murtaugh would never get a fair trial. Governor Tryon has it out for him. The only choice we have is to bust him out. We got to get him out of jail. And then they spend sort of the next, I assume it's about a week as well. I assume it's about a week as well. They spend that time sort of trying to make plans for how they are going to bust Murtaugh out of jail.
Yes. And my Fergus love is still very strong.
I was going to ask you about that.
Oh, it is. It's just, man, that is just this episode. But it's not just Fergus. It's his and Marsali's relationship. I love how Marsali like comes into the room and she sees what Fergus is doing with those little pins or they're whatever they are, and he's like, oh, Germaine loves these things, and she's like, yeah, but he's in his bassinet, so what are you doing? And then she kind of just sits there and she's like, all right, what are we doing? How do we do this? How is this going to happen? And I love that she's so supportive and just, I'll drive the getaway carriage, like, as long as we can save him. And she calls him an old coot, and it was the best.
The best. Well, because Marsali is ride or die, just like Claire. Like, Marsali is so ride or die. And she was like encouraging Fergus, because you could tell that Fergus, I don't want to say he was getting frustrated, but he was unsure, right? And even when he says, I wish Milord were here. And then Marsali says, I wish Claire were here too. And they sort of reminisce about how Claire risked her life to break into Wentworth prison in order to save Jamie, right? So like they have this moment, like I thought it was a really interesting scene where they were like, well, let's channel Jamie and Claire. What if they were here? What would they do? Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, they would find a way to save their friend. And then Marsali is like, well, we're going to find a way to save him. And that's that. That's what we're going to do. And I love that interaction as well. It did remind me a lot of Jamie and Claire, because Jamie and Claire, we've said this all along. They're so on the same wavelength. Mm-hmm. They're so on the same wavelength. They would do anything for each other, right? And certainly Fergus and Marsali are that same way as well. I mean, they are totally in sync in this, but I just feel like generally speaking, they see eye to eye in a lot. And when when Marsali says, I would stand with you as you face down the devil or something like that. And you're just like, yes. Now let's get to work.
I love her. And it's the past 2 episodes, because we went without seeing them for some time. Like, we saw Fergus, helping Murtaugh that one evening, them interact together. And so it's been so good to kind of watch them interact in this relationship, because they are so together. They are so kind of in sync. And it makes me just wonder, like, and I know it's probably because they have this example in Jamie and Claire, that they see how they work together, that they see how they communicate. And oh my goodness, I'm really excited for, and I know that Marcelly said, you know, we'll get this, we'll save him, everything will be fine. You know, maybe it's time that we go to Fraser's Ridge. Yeah. And I was like, yes, everyone needs to be together.
Thank you. Like, I don't even know why. I guess sort of now getting to the end of the season, I can see why they kept Fergus and Marcelly in Wilmington for this long, because they had to be here to like see what's going down with Murtaugh and save him and then head to Fraser's Ridge. So I get it. But I was like, gosh, guys, you need to get to Fraser's Ridge. And they start packing up. Marcelly's like, yes, you're right. It's time. I'm going to get a kit. I'm going to get a wagon. I'm going to pack up our stuff. We're going to be ready to go when the time comes. But loved the Fursley situations in this episode. And yes, it 100% reminded me of Jamie and Claire. Like when Marcelly, sorry, I don't want to harp on stuff, but I do because I am. Like when Marcelly mentioned Wentworth Prison, like in my mind, I had like a mental flashback. Like it was like I was watching it on a TV screen. Like I just flashed like Claire, like in Wentworth, like going around corridors, trying to figure out where Jamie is being kept, like getting to Jamie, trying to free him, Blackjack coming, and then like Jamie, like, you know, agreeing to do whatever Blackjack wanted to save Claire's life. And you're just like, and like when Blackjack takes Claire and like pushes her out and like, she's like sobbing, you know? Guys, I need to go back and rewatch season 1. That's my lesson for tonight. Whoa. That was fantastic.
In that description, I'm sitting here going, oh, bad things.
I know, really bad things. But also, like, Claire would do anything. Mm-hmm. And Jamie would do anything. You know what I mean? That is the depth of their love for each other. And I think sorry, I know I'm flashing us way forward. I apologize, but I'll just say this briefly. When Roger is talking about like how love and idiocy like go hand in hand, and like I was tweeting tonight and I tweeted something like, yeah, you know, Roger's right. Sometimes love and idiocy do go hand in hand, and pain too. Bree and Roger know that, but Jamie and Claire certainly know that as well, right? That's sort of this willingness to endure any amount of pain for the sake of the person that you love most in this world. God, isn't that what this series is about?
Yeah, it is. But sometimes I wish there was a little less pain.
I respect.
But that's the person in me that's like, so for me, how angsty is this book? Is it okay for me to read? Because that's literally me.
No, it's tough, but that's the name of this Outlander game, though.
It is, and I think that we said that like it wouldn't be Outlander without that.
Yeah, and we said I think that's something that we've said repeatedly is that Jamie, if it's possible to happen to Jamie and Claire, it will happen to Jamie and Claire. Like if you can conceive it in your mind, it will happen to them. But when it's all said and done, Jamie and Claire will be alive. Jamie and Claire will be together, and Jamie and Claire will be in love. And the fact that we can count on those 3 things, that is what propelled me through the books, through book 3, through book 4, through book 5, and definitely through book 6. As you guys know, I haven't read past book 6. But yeah.
So back on my Fergus love, because
of course,
honestly, when he and Marcelly are sitting on the carriage outside of the jail, and Fergus has kind of went around the jail with like gunpowder, and he's sitting beside her on the seat, and you see all these Scotsmen start like moving towards each other, like walking down the middle of the roadway.
Kind of like a flash mob, right?
Yes.
Like a flash mob, like a flash mob gang that's about to break out into dance together.
I would have been here for it. I mean, honestly, let's see what you got. It would have been a distraction. But like, you know, Marsley tells Fergus, you know, go. And like when he jumps off that carriage, y'all, that close up of him walking with that look of determination on his face with the guys behind him, I was like, this is nice. I appreciate this. This was really well shot. And I'm telling you, it snuck up on me. And then like they go to the prison and there are 2 guards out there and they're like, you know, you can't get in without a prior appointment. And they all draw their guns. And he says, you know, I don't think that'll be necessary. And I was just like, yes, like, let's go. Because not only is this like great because, oh snap, we're going to get Murtaugh or in here in a minute. It seems like Fergus has gained so much confidence. And that is this whole thing that Marsley's been trying to kind of facilitate over the last couple of episodes, was this building him up. And to hear him say that and be kind of this leader, I'm so proud. I'm so happy.
No, and it was really great to see, right? That he is definitely channeling Jamie.
Yes.
He's definitely channeling Jamie. He is. He's definitely channeling. Like, this is what we need to do. This is how I'm going to be in charge. This is how I'm going to lead this men. We have a goal. This is how we're going to execute this goal. And you know, they take the jail by gunpoint. And in the melee, right, of knocking out the jailer, grabbing the key from the jailer, Fergus comes face to face with Lord John. And right, like, that was interesting because like Fergus recognizes Lord John. Lord John also recognizes Fergus. Is like, what's going on here? And Fergus is like, look, they're not going to harm you because you're Lord John. You're a friend, but also your loyalties are to Governor Tryon, so you're not going anywhere. They're not going to harm you, but you are not going anywhere. And right, they hold Lord John there. They grab their keys and then they go searching for Murtaugh. They're like calling out for Murtaugh. They're able to get Murtaugh out just as Bree is coming. Out.
Perfect timing.
So it's like, it all converges. And Murtaugh's like, why?
Like, why are you here? And he's like, and he immediately turns on Lord John and is like, the devil, like, this man brought you here. And so Bree's like, no, you know, I asked him to, I wanted to do this. And Murtaugh's like, well, I'll take you back to River Run. And Lord John's like, no, I'm going to do it. And I can just imagine if one of them would have accidentally like spilled the fact that they're currently engaged, like Murtaugh would have had a fit.
That's true. He would
have had a fit in that jail.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. You're absolutely right. And like reticently, Murtaugh is like, okay, it's true. I am about to be on the run from like everybody. So
you can go with him.
You can go with him to River Run. But I'm going to keep my eye on you, Lord John. I'm going to keep my eye on you.
Yes. That whole scene is just, it's perfect. Their chemistry and their dynamic and how they play off each other, it could not have been more perfectly cast.
I agree. And there was so much going on, right? Again, we were talking about sort of these separate storylines converging, and there's so much action, right? Because a lot happens in just a little bit of time, because they have to get Murtaugh and they have to sort of arrange themselves and get out of there because this entire joint is about to blow up. And they do, right? Like, Lord John and Bree make their exit. Fergus and Murtaugh make their exit. The rest of the regulators make their exit, along with the jailer who's passed out. But the thing is that, as we said already, ain't nobody was checking for Stephen Bonnet.
No.
So is he alive?
You can't kill evil like that. Like, Like, that's one of those things that you got to double tap and watch and like burn and scatter the ashes. Like, he's gonna pop up at the most inopportune time.
I'm telling you, like, because they just, like, as I said, they already, there was a lot going on. As soon as they opened that cell for Murtaugh, they dropped the keys right in front of Bonnet's cell. And you can see Bonnet is like, right? Like, the last time we see Bonnet, he's stretching his leg to the key, and his foot has just like grabbed the key, right? Like stepped on the keys, the keychain, and that's it. That's all we see before it all goes up, right? So I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
I'm not. I need to see the body. I don't believe any of it. I'm be honest with you. I'm that person. I just can't.
Well, we'll see.
Because now, I can just, like, there's part of me that goes, I know Outlander's angst, and where can this angst lead us if Stephen Bonnet's alive and now he knows that he may have a child with Bree? You know what I'm saying? Like, Lord, like, this is like someone spun a wheel and just like named the angstiest things that could ever come to my mind that would make me have to watch, and that would be it. So yeah, I don't know. I am kind of curious as how they're going to fit everything into this next episode, because we had all that go on. And
sorry, just one more thing.
No, yeah, no.
That I need to say. So when Lord John and Bree make their escape, and they're stopped by like militiamen who ask about, you know, what happened? Did you hear anything? And you could tell Bree's a little nervous. Like, Bree's like, is Lord John about to rat out my friends? But Lord John doesn't. He says, everything happened so quickly. I heard nothing. Good luck. And then they turn around. As they turn around and they're walking, you see just like a little smile on Bree's face. Those are my people. Those are my people. No, it was.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I mean, he's so loyal to Jamie and, you know, to Claire and to their friends and their family. Like, I don't think Lord John would purposefully sell anyone out that he knows is a decent person. And I think that he and Murtaugh disagree on different things, but he's not going to do something that would hurt Jamie. And selling out Murtaugh would hurt Jamie, and he can't do that. Like, and he won't do that. And so, again, a new appreciation for Lord John, and I like listening to him talk.
But he, again, like we were saying that, you know, Marcelly is ride or die. Yeah. Lord John is also ride or die, you know, in this situation. Like, he literally owes Murtaugh nothing. But for the sake of Jamie, for the sake of Bree, he does this thing. He shows this mercy, and I really, really honor Lord John for that. I do.
I never thought I'd hear you say Lord John is ride or die, ever. Amazing miracles are happening.
Well, hold on though. But I just want to say though, like, in the books, like by this point in the books, I was still not a Lord John fan. I will say that I like the TV series portrayal of Lord John, and I like David Barry's portrayal of Lord John. David Barry is so compelling. He's so compelling. And he tugs at my heart in a way that book Lord John was probably supposed to tug at my heart. And I think book Lord John does do that for a lot of people. Every time I talk back and commented and try to convince me that Lord John was a good person. So, I mean, book Lord John does do that for a lot of people. I mean, people adore him. I did not, but I can tell you that Lord John, I admire him. I admire him a whole lot.
I do, yeah. Same. The way he portrays things and the way that he's so earnest. Like, he's just so loyal and earnest and just trying to do the right thing. And I appreciate that about him, especially when there are so many people that are trying to look out for their best interests in this season.
Yeah. So we have those two storylines, and then we have Roger. See, the thing is, guys, and I have to say this again, like, I'm the one who wrote the outline for tonight's episode and for our discussion of tonight's episode, and I saved Roger for last. And I know I keep doing this, but it's not because I don't think Roger's story or Roger's experiences are important. I think they're incredibly important. It's just given the way that everything is interspersed, like we flash here, then we flash back, then we flash there, then we flash back. Then like, I just didn't know how else to sort of put everything Roger goes through in this episode together and give it like its due justice without sort of like packaging it all together and putting it at the end. So that's just a brief explanation for why that's the case. Again, I think Roger's storyline is really important. And like I said earlier, I said Lord John Grey is one of the MVPs of tonight's episode. For me, the other MVP of tonight's episode is Richard Rankin. I mean, Roger, but Richard
Rankin.
Richard Rankin was glorious. He was glorious in every single scene. It was incredible. He was incredible. So he's the big star of tonight's episode, if you ask me.
I think you're right. And whenever I read the outline, I thought you put Roger's story at the end because it was, to me, Roger's story is the main it's the main kind of storyline. Like, we have the other stuff going on, but Roger's journey and kind of figuring out where Roger's at was the main part of the story. And so I thought you kind of put it at the end because it's the biggest to tackle, and also because it ends with Roger. And God bless him. I mean, honestly. But
how many sad face crying gifs can a girl use when live tweeting? Because I feel like it was just one gif of a tear to another gif of like wailing to another gif of like, gosh, like how much more do we expect Roger to endure?
The writing for him this episode, I felt was wonderful, like really great, like awesome. And Richard Rankin, his portrayal and his he tries so hard at some points to just seem like unfazed and I've changed, I'm different, but at his heart he's still Roger. Like, he is still this way. And so it was interesting to see him sort of try and work out who he is throughout the episode. Mm-hmm. And I think that Richard Rankin did a fantastic job juggling Roger's emotions throughout the entire thing.
Yeah. And that struggle and the struggle, right? Because like the episode actually begins with Roger, right? As he's going through the gauntlet and being like violently beaten. And he's beaten down to the ground, and Kaheroten, I think is the pronunciation. I'm sorry, I'm gonna struggle with these pronunciations, but I think it's Kaheroten, and another Mohawk man stop everyone from beating him, and then the other man looks down at Roger and is like, "You're gonna remain a captive," and you're like, I guess this was a test, and Roger failed the test because now he's like still a captive. And really, like the early part of the episode for Roger is watching him like deal with this violence and deal with this ongoing enslavement with the Mohawk who name him Ehau Kansa.
Ehau Kansa.
I think.
It's Dogface.
Dogface. That's what they call him. That's what he was named by the little Mohawk boy, I believe. who ran up while he was lying on the ground, grabbed his beard,
Scruff,
and was like, Dogface, that's your name.
and they're like, good one. But oh goodness, that going through the gauntlet, seeing him kind of fall. I mean, he gets hit with a club. I mean, if he had made it through that, I would have been extremely impressed. But he's trying not to get in any more, I guess, trouble. Like he really is. He doesn't feel well. He's hurting. He's in pain. But he's also, I think, trying to curb his natural instinct to be short-tempered, because he knows if he is short-tempered, he's just gonna catch another beating. And so they tell him, go get the wood, take the wood to the log cabin, and he puts it up there, and he goes the wrong way, and this Mohawk woman's like, no, that way. And it's very short with him, and you can see that he's simmering, that he's just. And on that walk is when he meets, what is her name?
I think it's Joyeon.
Joyeon.
She's the healer. She is the healer.
And she's got this gorgeous little baby. And as soon as I saw her baby, I was like, oh, this could either be okay, or it could be a reason why they're very, kind of short and brutal with Roger, because maybe they've had an interaction with someone in the past that has resulted in this child. And she's super nice, and she gives him something like an herb or something for the pain.
French.
And she speaks French. Yes, I like that. And I wonder if there's any other Mohawks who speak French, or if she's using her French to maybe communicate with him secretly. And
so no one else can understand. Good point.
I was wondering that, because the Mohawk warrior, when he sees her interacting with Roger, he comes over there and he's like, "Hey, you're gonna have to break this up." He needs to go do his chores.
Yeah.
And
Kaharotan is an interesting character. Because you're right, Katie, right? He observes this interaction between Joyeon and Roger, and he doesn't like it. And he does send Roger on his way, but he offers a warning, and he's like this person cannot be good. His own people sold him. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, I'm just like, oh my God, it was a misunderstanding. It was just a misunderstanding.
I know.
Misunderstanding. But you can imagine, right? Like he's trying to, and like Kaharotan has an interesting relationship with Jo-hye-han, because you can tell that he has feelings for her. Yeah,
okay. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who was like, he totally has some feelings there.
He has feelings for her, but I think it's interesting, right? Because the story, the sort of the narrative that we've gotten about Native Americans from the beginning is that typically Native American women, Mohawk women, choose their partners, right? So you could tell that Kaharotan has sort of, to the best of his ability, respected her choice to be with someone else and have a baby with someone else, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't care for her. And we see that in the way he sort of interacts with her. He gives her a present and wishes her peace. So that I thought was really interesting. But yeah, when he says that, Roger can't be a good person, he was sold by his own people, I was devastated.
Yeah, it's sad. And Kaharotan always finds Roger, and always kind of, he does not give Roger any leeway at all for learning.
Nope.
And he's just like, Roger, he may not be, I don't know, paying as close attention as he normally would, given that he's hurt and he's in pain. And he's offering wood to the chief first, right?
Yes. Or an elder, or an elder, I guess.
It's someone, and then he goes to Kaharotan's fire, and he cuts him off when he's talking. And apparently that's a no-no. It's a big no-no.
Nope.
And he pushes Roger down, and he's just very done with him. And oh, I can't. I'm so hard at this.
Jahiehon, I think.
Jahiehon is trying to step in and say, you know, he doesn't know our ways. He doesn't understand. We need to, you know, help him understand. Like, he didn't mean this disrespectfully. And this elder comes over and says, put him in the tent or the hut.
Yeah. You haven't learned. He hasn't learned.
And I'm just like, has anyone bothered to teach him? Or like even just like a few words? But in that walk over to the hut, Kaharotan says, you know, why did your people sell you? And Roger tells it was a misunderstanding.
Yeah, he's like, it was a mistake.
It was a mistake. He's like,
that is the biggest understatement of the entire season.
Yes, and he's like, I had you know, I had eyes for a woman, or I was in love with a woman, or something about a woman. And
yeah, my loyalty was to a woman or something.
He's like, well, then you shouldn't be making eyes. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is all a big misunderstanding. I feel like if we just talked for a minute. But in that hut, we meet Father Alexander.
Yes.
Or Alexandre. Yeah, and he was really compelling to me.
I agree. I thought because he was so firm in his convictions.
Yeah.
Like Roger just couldn't. And I have to admit to you that in this situation, I was with Roger here. I was like, Father, like literally okay, so backtracking. Father Alexander is a missionary. He's a Jesuit priest. He lives among the Mohawk in order to convert them to Christianity. He falls ill. In the process, he meets Jahiehon. He falls in love with her. They fall in love with one another. They sleep together. They have a child. And Roger's like, oh, did the Mohawk not like that? And Father Alexander is like, no, we were welcomed by the Mohawk. The issue arose when Father Alexander refused to baptize the child. And according to Father Alexander, he's of the belief that by breaking his vows as a priest, by having sex with this woman, he has broken faith. He has broken faith with Catholicism. He has broken his vows as a priest, and he is not in a state of grace. So he no longer has the authority to give sacraments or participate in sacraments. So he's not in a place to be able to baptize a child. And according to his conviction, like he could not give a false blessing to a child. That would not sit well with him, because that, like, he is already damned, and he would not give a false blessing to a child and then also like damn that child. And I was like, wow, those are strong convictions. But also Roger is like, fine, pour some water on the kid's head, say the Lord's Prayer, and keep it moving.
I know, like Roger, I feel like whenever Father Alexander is telling him this story, I mean, he may be a priest, but there's a little bit of poet in Father Alexander. Yes. Because that man was, I mean, his words describing Jahiehon and his love of her, and how he's prayed to kind of forget how she smells and how her skin. I mean, he is a little bit of a poet too. And that kind of bothered me a little bit, to how someone who can use these words and form these words and understand this huge emotion doesn't think that love would be, like he deems that love a sin.
I don't know. I don't know. Like
sin happened.
I'm not Catholic, so I'm
not either. And so
let me not ever presume to know Catholic doctrine. I do not. But sort of from my limited knowledge and judging from the show, the love isn't the sin. It's the carnal manifestation of that love via the sex. That's the sin. because he's a priest, right? He's not supposed to give in to temptations of the flesh, and he did, right? And he just can't. That is the sin that he just can't. He is no longer in a place to forgive himself, and he knows that, he's accepted that, and he's willing to accept what he perceives as the Lord's punishment.
Man,
I know. It seems super fanatic, right? And just super like,
I'm just thinking about like how, and I'm not trying to be to be rude or like mean or anything at all about someone's religion. But I just think about all like several like past popes and other priests who have also had children who didn't seem to let that get them down. And this poor guy seems like a really decent human being that if he could just maybe find a priest of his own and, you know, talk these things out, absolve him of those, then he wouldn't be where he was at the end.
And that's what Roger says, right? Like, you can tell that this has been going on for a while, because like he's been like getting like daily beatings as the Mohawk try to convince him to baptize this child. And like, even in the midst of telling his story to Roger, a couple Mohawk men come and like take him out. They strip him naked, and they were like, "You will go before your Lord naked." They like strip him down, and then they take him somewhere and they beat him. They cut off his ear, and like when they bring him back, like he can barely move. He's bleeding, you know, very profusely. And, you know, Roger tries his best to help him to clean the wound. Roger even says a prayer, like, you know, praying for relief. And that seems to rouse Father Alexander a little bit. And, you know, Roger asks him what happened. And they're like, well, they're offended that I won't baptize the child. They've given me until tomorrow morning to change my mind. If I don't, they are going to tie me up, light my feet on fire, and that's going to take 3 days for me to die. Like, and you know, Roger already said, like, that's a horrible death. That's a horrible way to suffer. And I feel like Roger has had enough.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like, at this point, Roger's done.
Roger was done.
And I think is it this part where he's like, just put some water on the kid's head, say the Lord's Prayer, say something. It doesn't have to be this thing, and get yourself out of this situation. And because he is done, he's like, I've gone back in time.
Yes. Oh goodness.
And he gives like this beautiful monologue.
Richard Rankin in this scene.
It's incredible.
Phenomenal. It's so good. It's because it's basically the story of the season from his point of view.
Yes.
It's the story of the season from his point of view. And it is heartbreaking because he's like, I fell in love with a girl. I asked her to marry me. She wouldn't marry me. I followed her across time and across space and across an ocean to convince her to marry me. And on the day we were handfast before God and man, we got into an argument. We said really horrible things to each other, but I left. And still, I came back for her. Her father, a man who I now believe to be her father, found me, beat me up, sold me to the Mohawk. Against all odds, I still had a chance to escape. I still had a chance to go home. And for the sake of the love that I had for this woman, I hesitated, and I got caught again. And throughout this I've been an idiot, but I have learned a lesson from my pain. I am an idiot no longer, he says. Look out for number one.
Yes, when he said that, there's a saying. Does he say a saying from my time?
Did he say
Father Alexander, or
from where I'm from?
Where I'm from, and it's like, look out for number one. And I was like, no, because y'all know, like, it was like 3 or 4 episodes ago where I was like, I hope, or 2 episodes ago, I was like, I hope that this journey for Roger changes him in a positive way, makes him more just kind of mindful of his words. And when he said that tonight, I was like, No.
Wrong lesson. Wrong lesson.
Wrong lesson. Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, he's like, look out for number one. You know, don't get caught up in love. You know, no one else is going to look out for you. So you got to look out for yourself. He was just like, dang. But you know what? I can't even really be mad at Roger.
Honestly, though, you can't. Because you're just like, he really has had a bad bit of luck the last 2 months.
It sucks. It sucks.
It does. Like, I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
But Roger, in the end, he does convince the priest to help him start digging.
Yeah, because he's like, Father Alexander, look. Either while you were gone, I've been digging this hole. One of two things can happen. You can escape with me. You can find a priest to absolve you. You can continue in your work as a priest. Fine. Or we can find Joy Yehan, she and your baby and you. We can all escape together. You can go on. You can live a great life. You can be a husband. You can be a father. Either choice has to be better than sitting here and dying this horrible death. And it seems like Father Alexander is convinced. I mean, they spend the whole night digging this hole together.
And see, part of me wonders if Father Alexander was like convinced, or if he knew all along that he was going to go this way, but he's just helping Roger because he knows that Roger needed help. And so as opposed to just having Roger kind of try and convince him the rest of the night to do something, he's just like, I'm going to help him dig. I'm going to do this service for him. But he kind of knew in the morning, I will be doing what I believe is right.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying. Because it's true from the, you know, especially at the end when Roger's like, did you not hear anything I said? And he's like, I heard everything you said. And I know that you think love is idiocy, but I don't hold those same beliefs, right? Mm-hmm. But there did seem because like when they were digging in the morning and they heard the Mohawks sort of chanting and coming towards the hut, it felt to me like they were sort of, and, you know, Roger was like, you know, we need at least an hour of work, but we don't have an hour. So it seemed to me that in that moment, Father Alexander was like, okay, I'm going to go, but this is going to be the distraction that will give Roger enough time to finish digging and make his own escape. So I don't know. I
mean, I know. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I was just wondering, like, just thinking about it.
I know.
But
I know.
It's so hard because he is so. He is just in his convictions. He can't see beyond it. He can't see a way out of it. It's so black and white, and this is punishment for this, and it breaks my heart that this is what he's going through.
Yeah, but I mean, he sees it as his punishment, right? That he broke faith. He broke faith with God, and this is the punishment that he must endure, right? And this is his punishment. This is how he is going to meet his death, and he is ready to face it while holding on to his conviction. So when Kaharaton comes and is like, what are we gonna do? And Father Alexander is like, no, I can't baptize the child. Then they lead him away, and you know, Roger, I don't even think Roger hesitates before he goes back to that hole, and he's like digging. Eventually he's able to make his way out, and he's running, but he can hear Father Alexander's screams, and Roger like has to start like vocally like convincing himself not to turn around. Do not turn around. Don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot.
Don't be an idiot.
There's nothing else you can do. You cannot save him. Don't be an idiot. But Roger,
it was pretty close to simultaneous that we both said the same line.
Oh, what's that?
Fucking hell. And I was like, don't you dare. And I was like, but he's such a good person, and Roger's a good person. He's gonna turn around. And we like it was so close to the exact same time. And I was like, what is he gonna do? Like, how is he going to fix this situation? Because I was like watching it from his angle, like, how's he gonna get him down? Like, what could he do? And then, of course, the callback is at the beginning, that little cold open thing that they always do is the whiskey being poured into the little cup spoon thing. And Roger, runs forward. And before anyone can like really understand what's going on, he grabs that barrel of whiskey and throws it on the bottom of the fire, and it just goes up.
Yeah.
And I know he was like ending his suffering sooner, and Kaharaton like tackles him and is like pushing him down. And
well, I have to be honest. At first, I was like, I hope Roger didn't think that was water.
I know, right?
I hope Roger didn't think that was water. But then, sort of like upon further reflection, it was like, no, this is like number one. This is how Father Alexander is determined to die. So you gotta give him this death. Number two, you can put him out of his misery. So it's like it's a small mercy of sorts.
Yeah, and I was not expecting what happened next to happen at all, because it's heartbreaking. Like Joyehan like picks up, or she kisses her baby, she kisses her son, and she sits him down, and she's looking at the fire. And I was just like, oh, she's crying, and, she's just mourning. And then as she starts walking towards the fire, I was like, someone's like, y'all are all watching this. Someone stop her. I wonder if Father Alexander would have chosen the same path had he known that she would have tried to join him in death.
Well, I'm not sure how familiar. Father Alexander could speak Mohawk because he spoke in Mohawk to several of the Mohawk men that came to the hut. So I have to assume that he was familiar with some Mohawk customs. And I think it is the case, sort of thinking historically. I don't know if contemporary anymore, but I mean, there were sort of historically several cultures where it was the practice. I mean, for better or for not better, for worse, for whatever it is, that it was the practice that, when a woman's husband died, she would join him, like as they were burning his body, she would join the funeral pyre and she would like kill herself with him. So I'm not at all familiar with Mohawk customs, so I don't know if the Mohawk do have that custom, but I think that might explain why, like, Kaharaton is the only person who seems to react. Like, no one else seems to really react when they see Joyehan sort of walking towards the fire and stepping into the fire and, holding Father Alexander as they both burn. So, I mean, it might be the case that they're like, yeah, this is what happens when, the love of your life dies, you die with them.
Oh, man. It was really sad. It was quite tragic. And yeah. I think that Roger kind of laying there on the ground is just blown away by this, because he's been spending this time the last few hours and days and probably weeks talking about how he's this idiot. But this idiot still has those strings he keeps tucking into his sling. So, I mean, he's still holding on to some hope. But to see that, that's so upsetting. And Kaharaton like picks up the baby and is holding this baby. And I know we talked about like how he sort of had feelings for her, but this is again an example of probably another man being a father figure to a child that's not his, from someone that he cared about deeply.
Yeah, for the sake of love. Yeah.
For the sake of love. And that seems to be this common thread and theme in Outlander, that it's in all these different experiences and social groups, that this is something that they all share in common.
Yeah. And Kaharaton holds the baby and tries to comfort the baby as, he's on his knees, weeping as well and wailing and mourning this woman that he had feelings for. It is wow. It is incredible, right? It's really incredible. And Roger, I don't think Roger expected that was how any of it was going to go down. But what he does expect is when the Mohawk men descend upon him and they grab him. And gosh, this line, I wasn't expecting there to be anything else said. I thought the episode was just going to end in silence. I was not silence, but I wasn't expecting any other lines. So when Roger opens his mouth to say, "That's it, lads, take me back to the idiot hut," I was like, oh my God, so much pain. I feel so much pain.
Well, it's so much pain because you know that Roger went back to like end this man's suffering with like this act of mercy, and yet now he witnesses this whole giant tragedy unfold. And he's just like, oh my gosh, like, is it going to end? Will this ever end? And you feel bad for him, and you feel, oh goodness, it's just sad. But that whole scene at Shadow Lake, or those several scenes at Shadow Lake, everyone was so good and so compelling. And it was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
Whenever I saw that that's where we were going to be at for a majority of the time, I'll admit that I wasn't like, oh, this is going to be, I wasn't super into it because we haven't followed Roger too closely. But as we started moving through it, I was like, wow, this is compelling. This story, this interaction with this group of people, I thought it was so well done. And I think I don't know his name, the actor who plays Kaharaton he was so compelling to me to like watch his facial expressions and watch his body language and watch how he interacts. And I thought he was fantastic.
I thought Richard, as I said, like this entire scene, I wish I could remember the name of the actor who plays Father Alexander as well. I can't remember the name of the actor, but he was actually tweeting a little bit during the episode. But it was really fantastic. It was really fantastic all around. And to Richard Rankin. That's all I can say. Is just Richard Rankin.
Richard Rankin was incredible.
He was incredible.
This episode.
So now we get to this point where we got one episode left, y'all. And we barely saw Jamie, Claire, and Ian. Just as Bree was reading the letter from Jamie, we saw flashes. Mm-hmm. But that was it. So we assume that they are trekking. They're trekking. They're making their way to New York, to Shadow Lake. And next episode, they arrive. But it seems to me like a lot has to happen in this last episode. Right? They gotta get there.
They gotta get back.
Get Roger, and they gotta get back.
And in the preview for next week, because I kept trying to rewind it, but it wasn't working right. Is Claire talking to Bree when she says, like, I want to get you out of here? Or who's she talking to? Because I could never pause it and kind of see who that person was.
I did think it was to Bree, but I guess I just thought unconsciously that it was to Bree. That's a good question. I did think it was to Bree. I did. But I can't quite remember why I thought that. I think Bree is in the scene. They're in the scene together, I think.
So that's what I thought. And so hopefully they'll, be able to get there and get back. But it's going to pack a whole lot of story into that one episode because Jamie is kind of sneaking into
seriously
the Mohawk camp.
I'm waiting for them to announce that next week's episode is going to be 2 hours.
That would be cool. I could deal with that.
That's actually what I need. Team Outlander, that's what I need. 2 hours, 2-hour finale. Give it to us, please.
I wonder.
That's all I have. I like tonight's episode. A lot happened. It was tough to unpack. But I agree, sort of upon further reflection, Roger Ehakonsa at Shadow Lake was definitely the meatiest part of tonight's episode.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think Roger's part was good, and it was good to be back with him for, you know, this period of time and to see his growth, because we haven't known his growth, and now we kind of get an idea of what he's trying to go for, but he keeps getting dragged back by who he is, and so that struggle is going to be, I think, real going forward too.
Absolutely. Because then what happens when, Bree is pregnant? Oh, the baby might not be yours. Oh, Stephen Bonnet. Right? Like you can imagine how Roger may react. He might just be like, forget it, I'm going back.
I mean, honestly, he knows the general area of the stones.
Yeah. So I don't know. But guys, we will be here next week after the finale episode to talk about all the things. So thank you for watching. Definitely make sure, as I mentioned earlier, the link to the recap is right below. So please take a look, comment on this video, and let us know what you thought about the episode. We always want to hear from you, and always love getting your comments. So please share them. Please find us on social media. Please maybe share this video with a friend. And have a great week. Stay warm.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Have a good week. Thanks for being here with us.